Today we're going to finally answer the question of if you can bake a great loaf of bread in a toaster oven. First, we're going to talk about some of the specific challenges that come with using a toaster oven. Second, we're going to give you some tips and tricks. And third, we're going to give you the most crucial piece of information you need to know. Let's get into it. So what are the challenges you'll face using a toaster oven? The first one is power and heating retention. The second is uneven heating. Third, a toaster oven just doesn't have the fancy features that a normal oven would have. The first tip is to insert your baking sheet or your drip tray on the lowest level in your toaster oven. The second tip, whether you're using instant yeast or your own sourdough starter, is to catch your dough at about a 200% increase in volume. The third tip is to use all the settings you have available. For your temperature control, you're going to want to start out your preheat on the highest possible setting. Run that setting through the first 2/3 of your loaf. Then you can go ahead and turn it down to about 220 degrees Celsius for the remainder of your loaf. Which heating element should you use? The top, the bottom, both? We're going to start it out on the bottom heating element. This will allow us to fully heat the drip tray that we put in or the baking sheet so that when we add our water, it will actually steam up. 30 to 45 minutes in, we'll probably switch it to using both heating elements. Those last 5 or 10 minutes, you can switch it up to the top heating element, which will allow you to brown your crust and really get a good, thick, caramelized crust on there. You'll want to use the fan setting on your toaster oven to allow the air to circulate so that we don't create hot spots. The fourth tip answers the question, how do we prep our dough? First, after shaping the dough, you'll let it proof on a piece of parchment paper. Before we put it in the oven, we'll want to add a little bit of moisture to the top of the dough. This can be used, you can use either a spray bottle or you can dip your fingers into some water and flick some water onto the top. We don't want a lot, just enough it's not actually running off the dough and pooling around the edge. When you go to put your dough in the oven, you'll slide the parchment paper onto the wire rack, put it in the oven, and then you'll add about a 1/2 cup to a cup of boiling water to your drip tray, baking sheet, or cast iron pan. This will allow us to create steam, humidity, and moisture, which will help our dough have some oven spring to it. The fifth tip is after the first 20 minutes of your bake, rotate your dough often, about every 10 minutes. The last 5 to 10 minutes of our bake, we'll actually want to rotate it every 5 minutes, or maybe even every minute. So what is the most important piece of information you need for baking a great loaf of bread in your toaster oven? Your time and attention are the biggest factor. When I'm baking my bread, I watch it every 5 to 10 minutes and make slight adjustments. This might be humidity, temperature, the heating element, rotating it. And towards the end of the bake, the last 5 to 10 minutes, you'll want to actually stand there and watch the bread finish baking. This will allow you to make sure that there are no burns and that your bread actually comes out looking like a great loaf of bread. So, let's answer the question. Can you bake a great loaf of bread in your toaster oven? Yeah, absolutely. If you put in the time, give your bread lots of attention, and try again after you fail, you can learn, adjust, and start baking great loaves of bread. Now, go give it a shot and bake your first loaf of bread in your toaster oven.